In this Warmaster video, we are going to take a look at terrain and its impact upon units, both in movement and in combat. We shall refer to the rules in the Warmaster Revolution Compendium. Infantry units have the most freedom of movement through terrain, and they can also derive the best bonuses from it. Only completely impassable terrain blocks the movement of infantry. Terrain has more of an impact upon cavalry units and monster units. Generally speaking, cavalry and monsters cannot enter dense terrain. Therefore, infantry units can seek shelter from cavalry and monster units by hiding in such dense terrain features. Chariots and artillery are the most affected by terrain. They cannot enter any dense terrain features, nor can they cross obstacles or pass through shallow water features or ploughed fields. Machines operate similarly to chariots. Therefore, if your army features a lot of chariots, artillery or machines, you will be most impacted by the terrain on the battlefield. If terrain is impassable to your unit type, then not only can you not move through it, but also you will suffer negative effects if you are forced into contact with it. For example, a unit which is driven back by shooting into impassable terrain will halt at the edge of the terrain and become automatically confused. Also, any stand from a unit in combat which is forced to retreat into impassable terrain is automatically destroyed. It is very appealing to place all your infantry units within dense terrain features, because this protects them from marauding cavalry, chariots and monsters, and also grants them a defended status, which protects them from enemy attacks. However, there is a downside to placing your infantry within dense terrain. This is the dense terrain command penalty. There is a -1 penalty to the command value of any character giving orders to a unit within dense terrain. Defended status may be claimed by infantry or artillery units placed within suitable terrain features. Hills, obstacles, and dense terrain such as woods, ruins, broken or marshy ground, and built-up areas all grant defended status. Being defended makes you harder to hit, meaning the enemy has to hit you on a 5+ rather than the normal 4+. Being defended also prevents the enemy from claiming their charge bonus when they attack you in combat. These two factors make it much harder for attacking enemy units to damage defended infantry or artillery. Therefore, even a weak infantry unit can hold off superior attackers provided they hold defended positions. In this example, the skeleton units inside the green box are inside a wood and can claim defended status, whilst the skeleton units outside the green box are in the open. A battlefield with several different types of terrain makes for a more enjoyable gaming experience. This is because terrain adds to the visual spectacle of the game. However, it is always worth discussing the terrain features of your board with your opponent before the game begins. The rules for terrain can be found within the compendium, and it's worth researching them before you play. Let's take a look. One of the most common terrain types are hills. Hills make excellent defended positions for infantry and artillery because any unit can enter them. They don't count as dense terrain. Shallow water features such as streams or ponds are also common terrain pieces. They are impassable to units with wheels such as chariots, artillery and machines, and provide defended status to infantry on the banks. Next we have broken or marshy ground, which includes ruins, swamps and scrub. Only infantry can enter this terrain. They suffer the dense terrain command penalty, but can claim defended status. Loose terrain features include fields and sand. It is impassable to chariots, artillery and machines. Whilst it does not provide defended status, it does cancel out attacking units' charge bonus. Woods are another very common terrain feature. They can only be entered by infantry. They impose the dense terrain command penalty and reduce line of sight to 2 centimeters. They do, however, provide infantry with defended status. Built-up areas are often represented by several removable pieces of terrain on a single stand. Built-up areas are essentially identical to woods, except they can be entered by all units, and all unit types may be pursued by any other units while occupying this terrain. Individual buildings can also be terrain features, especially if they are large and imposing. They are impassable to all unit types and provide no defence. Adding some deep water features or bottomless pits or ravines allows you to make some parts of your board impassable to all units. Including impassable cliff faces to some of your hills makes for excellent defendable positions. Roads provide access for all unit types through otherwise impassable terrain, and units in column may ignore any dense terrain penalty whilst doing so. Infantry moving along a road through dense terrain may still claim defended status, whilst units in column moving entirely along a road gain a command bonus. Bridges and fords permit units access over otherwise impassable terrain features. Whilst any units may pass over a bridge, chariots, artillery and machines cannot cross at fords. Low linear obstacles are also common terrain features and include fences, walls and hedges. They cannot be crossed by chariots, artillery or machines, and they grant defended status to artillery or infantry hiding behind them. High linear obstacles and castle walls are very rare and only really seen in sieges. They are impassable to all units apart from infantry. Infantry and artillery taking refuge on top of or behind this terrain gains fortified status. Some players may wish to make use of an optional rule for partially defended units. If for some reason you don't wish to work out attacks on a stand-by-stand basis, you may use this rule instead. In this example, all 3 units have 2 of their stands in defended positions and 1 of their stands in the open. Here the ogres have 1 stand on open ground at the bottom of the hill, whilst 2 stands are higher up the slope and claim defended status. This means the whole unit is partially defended. Here the warriors have 2 stands behind an obstacle and 1 stand in the open. They are also partially defended. And the slingers have 2 stands in the wood and 1 stand in the open, and they are also partially defended. Being partially defended grants you half of the protection of the defended status rule, in that the enemy has to roll a 5+ to hit you instead of a 4+. However, the enemy may still claim their charge bonuses. So here, the chariots have charged the slingers who are partially defended. The chariots get their full chariot charge bonus, but will hit on 5s. Note that the chariots cannot enter the woods, so cannot therefore make contact with the slinger stands that are fully inside the wood. So when the slingers retreat, the chariots can't pursue them. If instead the chariots charged the warriors who are partially defended by the obstacle, no chariot stand could be placed in contact with a warrior stand which is taking refuge behind the wall. Or if the chariots instead charged the ogres in the flank, the ogres would still claim their partially defended status. This is because a unit that is charged in the flank or the rear may still claim defended status against its attacker. The terrain rules do allow units to claim defended status when not fully inside terrain features. Here, all 3 stands of slingers are protruding beyond the edge of the wood, but can still claim defended status. However, because they're not inside the wood, enemy chariots can charge them as a legitimate target. And it's only when the defeated slingers retreat inside the safety of the wood that the terrain prevents the chariots from attacking them further. Terrain can also be used to protect your vulnerable infantry from enemy initiative charges. In this example, the chariots can see the slingers in the wood, and they are the closest visible target. This means the chariots may use initiative to evade from the slingers, but cannot use initiative to charge them as they cannot enter the wood. If they wish to charge any units, the chariots will have to be ordered, and they'll suffer a -1 command penalty due to the presence of the enemy slingers. The warriors are not a viable target for the enemy chariot charge, as their front rank is fully behind the obstacle, which is impassable to the chariots. Therefore, the only viable target for the chariots to charge are the ogres. Your own personal playstyle and preferences will determine how much terrain you want to have in your games of Warmaster. Generally speaking, infantry will benefit more if you have a lot of terrain on the battlefield, whereas if you prefer to play on a more open playing field, this will generally benefit cavalry and chariots. Likewise, terrain which blocks line of sight will help to prevent the dominance of artillery. Remember, games of Warmaster are there to provide you with a physical spectacle. So when determining how much terrain to place on your battlefield, the only question you really need to ask yourself is, what looks good?